Any opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants personally and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers, Rogers TV, or of Greybrook Securities Inc. Please consult a professional investment advisor before making investment decisions. Hi, it's Rav. You're watching Real Investments, the hottest real estate show in the world. That's right, I said it. I don't care who knows it. You know, a lot of times I hear, and you hear about this concept of leasing to own, renting to own, and how does that all work, and is it a win-win, and is it good for a tenant, is it good for an investor, all that kind of stuff. And so I've got the guru of how to lease to own, rent to own, and from an investor perspective, because this is Real Investments, a show on learning how to create wealth and increase your portfolio, it can be very lucrative. We're going to talk about how to make over 25% annualized by being an investor in lease-to-own properties, rent-to-own properties. My good friend Andrew MacDonald's here. He's been doing this forever. He's been making money. He invests in these, and he helps other people to do it as well. Andrew, it's great to have you on the show.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, you look like an investor, but you also look like you're kind of a James Bond kind of guy. You're looking slick. You're looking good.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mix. I used to work at the bank, so I've still got my old wardrobe, but since I've started doing rent-to-owns, I find myself working in jeans and, you know, just getting out and mixing with people a lot more.
And of course, you know, you're coming on the hottest show that exists on the planet, so you got to look a little bit dapper. But no, Andrew, seriously, it's great to have you on the show. A lot of people, you know, hear about this concept. You know, lease to own, rent to own. Let me start with this, because I don't really even know. Renting versus leasing. Renting's kind of a month-to-month, and leasing is a contract, or even that doesn't matter. It's just kind of the same thing.
I find the terms don't really matter too much. I think a lot of times people get the idea that leasing is sort of more of a long-term thing, whereas renting is sort of a month-to-month. But really, the terms don't differ. So you can call it rent to own, lease to own.
I prefer to call it rent for my grade 12 education. It's just kind of, you know, I leave leasing to people who, you know, do it with cars, I guess. Yeah. No one rents a car perhaps, but no, it's always in my world been rent to own. You for whatever reason, if I want to buy a property but I can't yet, I can still get into the game by renting it, and eventually it becomes my own, and you're going to talk all about that kind of stuff. But this is kind of your niche. I mean, I know you do a lot and you kind of diversify, but this is kind of a niche market, and so tell me why you like it so much. What's the philosophy behind it? I mean, I've done a few in the past, and they've been very lucrative, but it's a little different with you because you're actually putting people together. You're putting investors and those that want to get in this rent-to-own situation. So what's kind of the heart behind it, if you will?
Well, I think the easiest way to explain that is just give you a little bit of my background. So, you know, the first thing is I started to get involved in real estate. I started to buy a few regular rental properties, which I just thought was a good idea at the time. And so far, that's worked really well for me. As I started to buy more properties, I started to get stuck qualifying for mortgages because my ratios didn't work out.
Even though you worked for the bank?
Even though I worked for the bank. And, you know, I was slowly climbing the ladder there and making more money, but it was tough to keep building that portfolio. So at some point I said, you know what, I need more cash flow out of these investments, and that's when I started to look into a couple of options. So one good option for cash flow is student rentals, but it's very hands-on, and then the other option, of course, is rent to own, and I find that that's a little more hands-off. It's a lot of work to put the deal together, but once it's been assembled, it's a relatively passive way to own property.
And so that's how you got involved.
That's how I got started.
And you know, to kind of get into this world, I know you have kind of a mastermind group. You surround yourself with other, you know, eagles so that you can fly with them as opposed to walking amongst pigeons. It's really hard to do this if you're not always educating yourself, because things change. I mean, again, you have a financial background. Even that changes more in the last several months than it has in the last 30 years, right? So talk a little bit about that mindset, that you really got to surround yourself with people that are not necessarily all, you know, doing the niche of rent-to-owns, but they're in the investment game, specifically in real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're first starting out, one of the most important things is to really find out where you can get good, trustworthy advice. Yeah. And I know when I was starting, there was a lot of these get-rich-quick kind of things, and obviously that's appealing. Everyone wants to get there quickly. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you have to be realistic, and you have to surround yourself with people who know what they're doing. So, you know, through different educational groups, through different mentors, through joining some mastermind groups, I've really been able to draw on knowledge from a lot of different sources and sort of, you know, shortcut the path to success, I'd like to think.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think we need to, from a spiritual perspective, we need to love all and serve all, and who's your brother's keeper, love your neighbor kind of thing. But when it comes to a period, we need to do that. When it comes to making money and investing, a lot of people feel like just different things are very risky, but with knowledge, you mitigate risk, as I say all the time. And so we want to surround ourselves with people who have that knowledge. Otherwise, you can have a lot of people that really don't know what they're talking about and bring you down in something that could be very fruitful. And I think that's great that you, and myself as well, I need to surround myself with like-minded people in this area of being able to take the money that God's given us and be able to multiply it. And this is a very attractive vehicle. We use the number 25%. It wasn't 25% for me. It was a lot more. But if I said it was 40% annualized, then people probably wouldn't be, still watching. So as a minimum, when we talked on the phone, we decided to say you can make 25% a year annualized by getting into this kind of investment vehicle.
Yeah, and I know we had talked before when you first started, you could go out and buy an income property at 5% down, but now the rules are a little bit different, so there's less leverage. The returns have come down a little bit.
Yeah.
But normally, we're targeting around a 25% return for our investors.
Yeah.
If there's an additional risk factor, we try to price that in and make the return a little bit more generous. Yeah. But generally, that's what we're talking about. And even at 25%, people have a hard time believing that that's actually possible, and it's not a scam, and that it's a legitimate investment. Yeah. But the point is, if you're willing to be more active with your investments, you can do very well.
Yeah, and more active when it comes to ownershipsolutions.ca. That's where I can learn even a lot more about you and this kind of vehicle of investing. When it comes to Ownership Solutions, again, what's in it for the, well, let me just ask you that. What's in it for the purchasers? We're going to take a break, and we'll come back, and then I'll ask you to answer that. You're watching Real Investments. I've got Andrew MacDonald. It's going to be an exciting show. You don't want to go anywhere. Real Investments continues in a moment. Thanks for watching, everyone. Always ask 4 questions to start. What is the minimum cash amount needed? What is my return on the investment? When do I get that return along with the money I put in? And what is the worst case scenario?